Hello, welcome to the channel and welcome to this somewhat unorthodox video. This is my first overhead shot video I'm ever filming, so here's to hoping it gets better. Anyways, today I want to talk about a topic that I have been very passionate about and one that I hope can convince you to start art journaling today. Today's video is all about how you can start art journaling right now with literally whatever you have on hand. And I have there's all of these things off camera. Let's see if we can. I mean, it's a huge hodgepodge of things, and everything you're about to see today, with the exception of my art journal, have not been purchased, and of things that I've had around my house. I believe, and I'm just going to give you a very quick rundown of my philosophy, that art journaling for me is cathartic. It's an experience that is all about the outlet. It is all about the doing and the creating that can just be such a transformative experience and outlet for our emotions and our feelings. And I've never been somebody who's artistic or qualified myself as artistic, and that doesn't matter. Being good does not matter. Just getting it out really matters. I think a lot of people can find that valuable. So if you hold my experience, or you would like to start art journaling, but you don't know where to start, I'm going to talk about all kinds of supplies that you can find in your house right now that will not cost you anything. Some of them are probably a little bit easier to come across than others, but I have a wide range of things to talk about today. Without further ado, I want to get into it. And I do want to talk about some paper stuff first. I mean, there is more paper stuff in this general direction over this way, following my hands this way. But I'll talk about those second. They're all paper as well. So the first couple of things are books. This is a really popular medium in the art world, and I think that you could use whatever you have on hand. These are just a couple of books. I have ripped some pages out, but I don't know which ones. I ripped the book plate out of one of the books. One of them had a book plate. It might have been, oh yes, it was this one. This book had a book plate that I had ripped out. Actually, I haven't used this book, but this one has coffee stains on it, which I'm sure you can see. I have used another one. It's called, I don't know, it was a book that I got for school. I find it very cathartic to rip pages out of books, and you don't need to go buy books or even go to the thrift store. Go to your bookshelf and see what books you are not reading and can deal to part with. And a lot of people who do art tend to have these really nice old beautiful pages. Some pages that you could see in here that are, I don't know what books they're from, but they're from one of the books I just showed you. And so you can coffee dye your books if they don't quite have that patinaed feel. This one is actually a library copy from Germany, believe it or not. So this book has been handwritten in and is from the 70s, I believe, 1973. This book is quite old as well, and I think that starting with book pages is a really great way to start many spreads. You can also use cards. So the ones I have here are from a card set I got nearly a decade ago, and this is what is left. I don't particularly find these cards to be my aesthetic today, but as you can see, there are so many designs that I can use even as background, like having a colored background, like some of these pops of color that you see, but also the cards. You can dye the cards, or to have like a nice little square piece of paper, you could just cut the flap open and then just like have this, or cut the flap off and then glue this as a background. Or you could like color this as a background. Like I just have so many envelopes that just don't match the cards. I do not know how I ended up with so many envelopes. So if you're like me and you have envelopes lying around, you can just color the envelopes or leave them as white, coffee dye them, tea dye them, and have them as features in your journal. I also happen to have a handful of paints lying around. These were from when I was redoing my room back in 2020, and I intended to make some art. I kind of did, but never really went anywhere. So ask if you don't, like if you're thinking, I don't own any paints, if you have siblings or friends, they might have some that they could either give to you or lend to you. And I just kept these under my bed, and I completely forgot that I even owned them because I don't paint. So I had no reason to go looking for them, and I never really went under that side of the bed. I think a lot of people, especially people with children, might have paints of some kind, and a lot of people who have paints keep them and they're like, I don't know what to do with them. I also found some washi tape that I had just lying around. I had purchased for previous craft projects and then went ahead and, never used them. So there's just so many office supplies, like paper clips. I have so many paper clips. And I am adamant about using paper clips in a creation. Same with these. I've been using my washi tape so much. Some perhaps unconventional supplies. You can, if you have makeup that you're not using, eyeshadows, blushes. I don't know about lipsticks because lipsticks might stay tacky. I would try using them. This is a liquid blush, and I just dropped it on my page. It didn't quite work out because this particular one was really thick, but you can water these types of things down and experiment with them on one of my pages. I think you might be able to tell the edges, like right here, that there's like some gold glitter. That is because I completely covered this page in this highlight before painting over it. And like, look at her. She's looking a little worse for wear. But this is a highlight that I could not sell. I didn't want to use. I didn't like it. And I was watching somebody who had, she had metallic paints, acrylic paints. And I wanted metallic paints, but I didn't want to go out and buy anything metallic. So I tried this and it worked fine. So you can mix your highlighters, any kind of highlighter you don't want, or even shimmery eyeshadow, into a particular paint to make it metallic. And it did not affect the paint at all. And you can see in this page, all of the shimmers shining through the paint. Another couple of things that you might want to use are eyeshadow brushes. I detested these eye brushes. None of them really worked well for eyeshadow, but they actually work marvelously for paint. And I do have some paint brushes that were quite cheap. I bought a long time ago. I only have a handful. And these paint brushes here make really clear brush strokes. And using these brushes and then the ones I have in my hand, they look very different and they give different looks. So if you have eye brushes you're not going to use anymore, experiment with paints that you might have to see if you even like that look. Before we come up onto some of the other things that are hanging out over here, a glue gun. I think a lot of people have glue guns but forget that they have them. This was me too. I mean, you can use this to stick on things, but also you can create shapes with the hot glue and then you can paint over them. So you can create texture in your on your pages with hot glue. So go looking in your basement to see if you have a hot glue gun. All right, let's get on to some more of the paper stuff. Also, if you're looking for painting trays, this was one that the previous tenants left behind that I've used for paint. I also am currently using for my watercolors one of those Starbucks cups. You know when you go and you get a cold cup from Starbucks, like when you get a cold drink? I've just been using one that I had got when I was there a couple months ago or a month ago, and have just been using my paint, like for my watercolors to dip my brush back in. But then when I have acrylic paints and I want them on a tray, I've been using stuff like this. And old dishes are perfect for it. One of the things that you can do with, if you do have paints, you can also coffee dye. I might have some of those somewhere in there. But when I was making my bingo board, I had extra paint and I had some scrap paper. So I painted on both of these, and now I can cut them out. Like I can cut shapes into them or just squares or whatever and use these on a page. These are all the scraps from my low-buy bingo board, and I just kept them in here because you never know when you might want something. Just little shapes like here, there's enough to, like, I could just rip this little piece off and have this as something that, you know, you just like tuck into the background. Also, I would just, before you throw things out, there's packaging like this. I think this floral pattern would be really nice to use in a journal, on a journal page. Even some of this green, and even on a section of this tea canister like this where there is writing, this can go under a page and you can have a piece kind of sticking out. Let me just, I'm gonna flatten this so it takes up less space. So look at things before you recycle them. The same thing with jars. Like if you have a pasta sauce jar, pickles, yogurt, you can use those containers for paint or for your brushes. Here is my file folder of paper stuff that I have found around my house and then have just kind of gone in and put in here. If you have shopping bags, this is a paper bag. I plan to cut this up and use it either the outside, the gray, oh, sorry for the noise, or the inside, the brown on pages. This is a thank you card I got from somebody, perfect for putting in the background. Not a thank you card, it was like a gift with purchase kind of thing. This, oh, some of the pages that I've written on inside my book was scrap paper. I was testing some things for my shop that didn't work out. I had these are my coffee dyed pages I was telling you about. My very first experiment with coffee dyeing. I think it looks very cool, you know, how I rips it out of the page. But with coffee dyeing, you could also tea dye. This wasn't a very strong coffee. You could also, if you have different colors of tea, like green or red, you could try that. Or also, I mean, people probably don't do this for a reason, but if I ever had like cream or grape soda or even Kool-Aid, I would definitely coffee dye those things, or dye the paper those things. I used to dye my hair with Kool-Aid all the time. Oh, here's some tissue paper that came in an order. It's such a beautiful color that I feel like it belongs on a work of art. This was some brochure that I found, but I think that some of the pictures in here, like some of the imagery, is really nice and would look really cool on a page. I printed these out and colored these one time last year, and they used to sit on my fridge, but I think that they should go into my journal. So this is a good reminder. If you have postcards or cards you don't want to keep, you can cut them out and put them in as well. Napkins, like you get from different stores, can just be really great to create texture, and you can crumple them up and then like Mod Podge them, or they could just go flat and be part of like the background of something. Some cardstock. I also have, these are two brochures of ballets that I've gone to. I don't know if I'm going to cut them up because I think they're so beautiful. Like, look at this Giselle. Look at her. Oh my God. I think it's so beautiful. But there's definitely pages in here, different ballerinas or different parts of this that I could see myself potentially using. So if you get advertisements of any kind, you get newspapers, or you have these kinds of paper products, you know, we have cards, we had nutritional information, this was from a show, a lot of like museums or exhibitions, if you have those, like sometimes they'll give them out. I have more envelopes. except these ones are different colors. I also, one of the best finds I have to show you. I got a magazine that, this was a long time ago. This magazine came with like a vision board kit. So you can see there's all of these parts on it, but all of these colors too that you can cut out. You can see that I was ripping some stuff. It also came with a sticker sheet that has just been sitting around. And then it also came, I think it's too big for camera, with this thing, and that's from 2019, I guess. And so I can cut out these flowers or these colors for background images, which I have done. And then there's stuff on the back too, so you can pick whichever one you like. Ultimately, just this, everything you've seen in this video is just stuff that's been lying around. There's so much stuff that we see every day that we just get accustomed to seeing because it's there, and we don't think about the fact that this is something that I could use to create something with or experiment with. And so I encourage you to look around your house to see what you got, because I think you probably have something that you could use. And keep all of your scraps too, because sometimes you might just need a little piece of paper that's this big, either in white or you can color it. And there's so many different ways to color your media. So I hope that this video has given you some ideas of things that you can find around your house to create art with. And if you're just experimenting, I think you're doing a great job and exactly what you should be doing. So I really hope that this gave you some ideas of things that you can do and try out. And I would love to know if you start your journal and what you'll put in there. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.